Greetings nerdy list aficionados and welcome back to Top 10 Nerd. Today we're looking at a tried and true plot, pun fully intended, the trial plot, when comics just turn into a courtroom drama where people yell and will be declared in contempt of court 6 ways through Sunday. There's a fair few to choose from, so get ready for a roller coaster ride and lots of lawyers abusing their position and asking questions that would not be allowed. I'm Sasha and these are the top 10 superheroes who stood trial. Number 10, Batman, The Trial. This is from the animated series. So let's go over to the DCAU, the DC Animated Universe. So this episode is the 9th episode of the 2nd season, and in it, Batman gets knocked out and captured by his rogues gallery, and is placed in a straitjacket and forced to stand trial. His lawyer is Janet, an attorney who is actually having a dinner date with as Bruce Wayne, because of course he was. She inspired this whole trial due to her view that Batman was a disgrace to Gotham and was actually creating the criminals within it. So they picked her to prove that he was good for the city, feeling that her bias would mean that she wouldn't be able to do it. So you get the villains taking the stand, claiming that they were harmless individuals who just fell on rough circumstances until Batman came along and ruined everything. However, Janet is able to demonstrate how really they were the problem, not Batman. And she realizes through the process of the trial that she no longer believes that Batman creates the criminals he fights in Gotham. However, even though she wins, the rogues still try to execute both of them. But they manage to escape all of them, and Janet makes peace with Batman, and they both vow to help the city in their own ways. And he probably doesn't go on any more dates with her as Bruce Wayne. Number 9, Wonder Woman. So many may be aware of the fact that Wonder Woman snapped Maxwell Lord's neck live in front of everyone. But what happened after? Well, Wonder Woman turns herself in since, well, the world saw the broadcast and the neck snap. And also she felt that her cause was just because Maxwell Lord had grown to the point psychically where he could control Superman. So she is tried by the World Court, and it plays out in the pages of Manhunter, cause her lawyer was Kate Spencer, who is Manhunter. The first female one. There have been many Manhunters. The trial had dramatic twists and turns, including an appearance from Blue Beetle, Ted Kord, who at that point had been killed by Maxwell Lord, which was a huge crux of the case. Because it was part of Diana's "see, Max was bad" argument. But after enlisting the help of Batman, who was mad at her for killing, they found out that it was actually a shapeshifter. With some more help from Checkmate, Wonder Woman's actions are proven to be justifiable. A neck snap the public could get behind. Number 8, Yellow Jacket. Yellow Jacket is Hank Pym. Yes, he took on the name of one of his enemies for a time. It was during one of his unstable periods. This is the period wherein he has a psychotic break and descends into paranoia and abuse. It's from this period that we get the now infamous backhand panel where he hits Janet, an action that would start them on the path to divorce. All of this, and some things that happened before, would lead to Captain America suspending him from the team until he could be court-martialed. So his trial wasn't public, but held instead amongst his peers. Is that better or worse? So during the suspension that happens pre-smack, which happened cause he kept attacking an enemy after they were down and the fight was over, so that was the suspension part. He wants to get back in the team's good graces. So he builds a robot to attack them, but with a kill switch so he can stop it. It's when Janet finds this out and tries to stop him that he strikes her. People talk about the panel itself all the time, but they don't often talk about the whole story surrounding it. It's a dark, dark odyssey. A lot of this turned out to be tampering and manipulation of someone already unstable by the villain Egghead, who was supposedly dead, and saying he was alive led to Hank being arrested. It was only after Egghead revealed himself that Hank was freed and cleared of all charges. But he would never be the same in the eyes of many readers. Number 7, the Justice Society. Woo, the JSA. This trial got its own little series, America versus the Justice Society. This is one of the last JSA stories before Crisis on Infinite Earths would wipe Earth 2 off the map for a while and fold everything into one universe. Batman, who was dead at this point on Earth 2, had seemingly left a journal detailing all kinds of misconduct perpetrated by the JSA. Specifically, he accused them of acts of treason. This is a famous moment in comics and will be played with and echoed in media for years. The team was accused of treason by the US government and put to trial in a proceeding that was meant to echo the Red Scare, that being the hunt for communists that destroyed the lives and careers of so many. Rather than submit to the treatment they were experiencing, they all decided to retire rather than reveal their secret identities to the world. You know, so villains didn't just come murder all their loved ones. Well, in the eyes of the people, this just made them look more guilty. It would be discovered that the diary was a fake. It was a trap set so that the JSA could lure in and capture a time-traveling villain. But the victory would come to naught, as Crisis would erase this continuity from existence. Number 6. She-Hulk versus herself. Now the She-Hulk is a lawyer, and as a result has had many a courtroom plot. But we're going to be looking at a recent mid-2000s, mid-late occurrence. This is when she went to trial against herself, specifically the classic version of the She-Hulk, dubbed by some as Pinup She-Hulk, and the strong or ugly She-Hulk, although that's very subjective. The court case would be a meta conversation with a foregone conclusion for those involved in the atmosphere of Marvel Comics at the time. She was fighting for the right to be ugly, a right that her and all comic book characters have, but that pretty much none of them make use of, male or female. They prefer the right to be hot. This trial would prove polarizing, as would the more Hulk-like direction of Jennifer's character, not just in appearance, but also in attitude. Number 5. Daredevil, Matt Murdock. Matt Murdock is also a lawyer, who is also involved in a case about his alter ego, but not on a meta level, but an actual one, like in the canon. He really got sued for being the Daredevil. So Matt Murdock takes on a case wherein the Daredevil is being sued for property damage. Property damage Matt knows he didn't commit, so that means that there's an imposter in town. But in order to suss all of this out, we have to have a trial. But how can Matt Murdock be in the court with Daredevil at the same time? Why, with the help of some of his New York friends, in this case Spider-Man. He convinces him to wear his costume for him to appear in the court at the same time. I mean, Peter was down. Even being sued, Daredevil is still more well-liked than Spider-Man. And that hurts. Number 4. Mr. Incredible from The Incredibles. Mr. Incredible getting sued after he saves a suicidal man is the catalyst that sets off the outlawing of superheroes in this universe. That lawsuit of a man fighting for his right to death is followed up by property damage case after property damage case. And let's face it and get depressingly realistic for a minute. No insurance company could cover all the damage from superhero battles. It would just be an unsurable void. You'd have these unsafe zones where no one could travel. So it would be easier to just outlaw them all. This eventually leads to Bob's midlife crisis later on, after being forced into a rather mundane suburban lifestyle. Number 3. The Fantastic Four, but largely Reed, let's be honest. So Robinson's run on the Fantastic Four would introduce a very depressing plot where the Fantastic Four were turned against by the city and taken to task for all the property damage and hoarding of items such as the Ultimate Nullifier and the portal to the Negative Zone that was in their own home. You know, making deals with Galactus and the like. Basically the city saying that the Fantastic Four were making it unsafe, that they were irresponsible with their powers and tech. Sue would be accused of having an affair with Namor on the stand, and they would allow it because it was all sort of, we need to establish their connection to this nefarious mutant ruler. It was just because they wanted the dramatic panel and because we all know that it happened. Their lawyer would be their friend and colleague Jennifer Walters, and despite her best efforts, she would not be able to win the case for them. And they would have their kids taken away from them, placed in government charge, with the Human Torch, the first one Jim Hammond was there, so that helped a little bit, but obviously not that much. They were obviously devastated, and they also had the Baxter building taken away from them. Sue would be so distraught that when the Avengers came to keep them out of the building that was once their own home, she fought them all to a standstill single-handedly. So why did all of this happen? Well, it was a villainous plot orchestrated by some guy who loved Sue and was jealous that she had married Reed. Yeah, getting her kids taken away, that'll make her love you. A+. Number 2. STARFOX. This is the Is STARFOX a Rapist or Not trial. A classic. This was the plot that for many ruined STARFOX. It's a hard one to come back from. So STARFOX was accused of using his pheromone powers to entice women to sleep with him against their consent, and also being all like, you just slept with a superhero, you should be grateful. And it did happen. Again, Jennifer Walters would be his lawyer, but would come to question him as well as her own consent when they had slept together. It turned out that that wasn't manipulation, it was just poor judgment. But he had made her and her husband love each other and get married, so ew. It would all come out that this was manipulation from his childhood. It's not really his fault. Feel bad for STARFOX. You know, STARFOX was part of some key arcs, but this is what most people remember, and since then he hasn't been utilized the same way. This plot was a hard one to write, and it didn't always achieve quite the heights it clearly wanted to. Mistake. Number 1. The Flash kills the Reverse Flash. Oh, the trial comic to end all trial comics. This was a massive arc for Barry Allen, approaching the end of his tenure as the Flash. This arc started in issue 323 and went to 350. It lasted 2 whole years. 2 years reading about the Flash on trial. That's definitely worth our number 1 spot. It was like the length of a proper trial, all things included. Points for realism. Well, actually still faster, if we include the wait period. So the Flash was charged with manslaughter after he seemingly snapped the neck of the Reverse Flash, but the charges would later be upgraded to second-degree murder. Now, not every issue was the Flash in court, but most had to do with it in some way. Say his lawyer being kidnapped, or the rogues taking over the city, which turned public sentiment against him. The trial would see all his friends subpoenaed. Wally would be all, oh, it wasn't necessary to kill him. Ice cold, Wally. The Flash was found guilty eventually, and then everything went off the rails. This was a plot against him from the future, and Iris was alive and living in the future, and they sent info back from the future, which cleared the Flash of the guilty verdict, but he decided to go live in the future with Iris. And then Crisis happened, thank God. So those were 10 times superheroes were put on trial. Do you want more? Please want more, because I have more. I'm Sasha, and thanks so much for watching Top 10 Nerd. Please don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe, and hit that bell notification so that you never miss a vid. See you soon. Bye.